Okay. I think I got my food off my face, but I'm doing this new protein shake, so if it's back in between my teeth, let me know. Okay, guys, who is first time here? Welcome. You guys sound welcome. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thanks for venturing in. You have landed in the UCF Starter community. So after today, make sure and hit up ucfstarters.org and kind of start hanging out there. Check out UCF Starters on Facebook. Join the conversation there. And we are a community committed to helping you start something. For you to follow your own dreams and passions and design a meaningful life, meaningful ventures, right? This is the D School of UCF. This is a safe place to practice. So if you don't know anything about startups, you've never even heard the word lead, you don't, or at least not in that way, you don't know about Agile, you don't know about anything about a business, and you actually didn't take business because you think people are corrupt that are in business, are ruining the world, or you just hate math and you want to get as far away from it as possible. You still belong here because you can get other people to help you on those parts, okay? So, one-on-one coaching we do here. So if you have an idea, it's free, it's confidential. We help you from the beginning, which we call ideation, to all the way to launch or scale. And in the middle, you might change your mind, go away for a while. The journey's not always linear and right. So wherever you are is exactly the right place you're supposed to be. And so we're here for coaching. Every day in the fall, 12 to 1. Where the cool peeps hang out. Look around you. Not me. These guys and the people next to you. The cool peeps on campus that are creating stuff and starting stuff are here and learning about it. Okay? Sometimes you have students talking, sometimes you have people from the community, and somebody's always sharing their story. So hang out with us there. As you move along with us, if you are one of our clients, raise your hand if you coach here. You've coached with us here. Right? You have coached with us. Who's a client in here? Who's a coach? Those are people that we introduce, like if you're a client of Launchpad, you guys are clients of Launchpad? Yeah. If you coach with us, we connect you to other resources to accelerate you, not just on campus, but off campus, okay? So we've got a couple of our ventures are only getting some financing, right? You guys have some of your own financing. Some of our ventures are getting connected to specialists that they couldn't find, that they need their help in developing their venture or a new client or product. So we work that way too to accelerate you, okay? Today we're going to do this kind of in a conversation, a little bit of a conversation. I'm going to let you guys introduce yourself, and then we'll talk about like where it fits in, at what point in the startup journey, where you do with some of the legal stuff. Kind of talk about that a little, and I'll bring that piece when it makes sense.
Well, my name's Terry Horn, and it kind of really makes sense to start with, because the whole validate your idea. If you guys look, printed out a checklist for you. I put validate your idea at the very top, and that was this reading path. I mean, say it's the most important thing, first thing you need to do, and our company, Legally Linked, what we do, we kind of come in.
Introduce that guy.
Yeah.
So I want to also clarify that we are not the attorneys at Legally Linked. We do have attorneys on board with CLO. We also have an attorney that specializes in contract law. We're building out an attorney network that's part of this business as well, and that's still in cultivation right now. But essentially, yeah, I think Terry's about to jump into it.
You want to say your name?
Oh, Edward Griffin, I'm sorry.
Say hi, Edward.
Hi, Edward. So, what we do is once you guys validate your idea, we're here to actually help you form it, help you get legit. So if you need to start an LLC or a corporation, or you want to do a trademark or maybe copyright your work, any of that, we do the whole filing, the whole process. But today today we kind of want to explain how we do it and why we do it, and not only try to show you if you want to do it on your own that you can. So I guess we can start by going through the checklist.
And Pam, did you have a certain format? You said or conversational. Is it okay if we kind of go through the checklist?
Yeah, you guys need to rock how you want to rock. What we talk a lot about in the Launchpad is people come in and go, I can't start at the launch. I can't start my venture because I haven't got a business plan together, right? We don't really do business plans here at the first part at all because it's a waste of a professional's life. You don't know what you're writing and it's just going to be a waste, right? So don't write a business plan, at least not at first, right? So we have a handout and you'll be able to see it, but we talk about getting your idea. How many of you are in ideation right now? You're in the thing of getting a prototype. You haven't launched, you're still working on an idea of how it's going to come to market. Raise your hand if you're in that category. Okay, I'm in that category with a startup I'm working on. Like I'm in a prototype right now, not a functional prototype, okay? Okay, who here has got a functional prototype and they're doing their financials? Okay, who here is putting all the resources, the team, the capital together, but they haven't launched yet, that they're at that phase? Okay, and who here has launched? Raise your hand if you have an existing business that's launched. Look around, those are the people you want to talk to. Okay, and who here is scaling? You're moving outside of one market, you're blowing it up. Okay, stand up, you in the pink. This guy will be talking here next Wednesday, so you want to be here to hear. Who are you?
My name is Brendan Anderson. I started app called Party Tutor at UCF, so I'll be speaking next week.
Yep, that's great.
It's a pretty big deal.
So we're all at different stages, so when do we have to learn about the legal stuff always, right? But we wouldn't have you go pay for an LLC if you were in ideation. We'd have you get to a working prototype and get into at least phase 2 or 3 where you're working on your financials before you start that, just because you might pivot in such a way that all of a sudden you weren't raising capital and you need to raise capital and this company structure should be different. So we try to save money and time around here, and we do the real critical stuff in what we call sequence. Can you say sequence? Sequence. Not the shiny ones. Those are sequins or something, I think. But sequence is like, how can I accelerate you because you're right, you're getting tired of eating top ramen, and you don't want to get as old as me to have to do your next startup. So you're using time and money, and we're trying to move you as fast as possible to learn as fast as possible to lose as little money and as little time before you find a hair-on-fire problem that you can bring the solution to. A repeatable, scalable business is what Lean Startup is a search for. These guys, Brent, who else, Sammy, if you're getting money repeatedly from people, you have found a repeatable, scalable business model. We want to teach you how to do that. Once you learn how to do it once, time and the team and things will be different, but once you learn the recipe, you'll be able to repeat it your whole life, and you'll never be a prisoner or a slave to anyone else that is called an employer. Can I get an amen? Correct.
So,
Now it's your turn.
yeah, we come in once you have your idea ready, and like I said, want to go legit. And I kind of want to just explain how to do that. The steps you need to take. It seems easy. There's a lot of little things that people forget. And we're all about doing it lean, so we want to save you money. So, for example, you really want to start out with your business name. You want to check if your business name is available. So you got your business name. How do you check if it's available? There we go. You go there, you search it, you see if anyone else has that. See if
Did everybody hear that?
sunbiz.org. So you check it out, you see if anyone has your name as an LLC, anyone has your name as a corporation, because there's multiple search places. So you can search all the LLC names, you can search all the corporation names, you can search all the partnership names, etc.
What if you're going to be doing business outside of Florida?
Okay, so if you do business outside of Florida, and you can, that's completely fine, depending on one thing. If you're already started a company in Florida, then depending on what state you want to do business in, you have to form qualify, meaning you basically have to start a business in that state again. But that's only for products that are sold physically out of a store within that state. So if you're selling online to national customers, you can register in one state and fine.
And be fine with your name.
Correct.
Taxes is the whole different story.
Yeah.
Okay.
And with your name, it's good to register it within that state that you're doing business in, if it's physical. But if it's over the internet and you're selling to all 50 states, then I would recommend a trademark. So that way you're protected in all 50 states. No one can, start a business with the same name in California and then end up being bigger than you and then basically sue you or take over your name. So that's where you want to start with. You want to start with your name, search, make sure it's available, make sure that the website's available.
And we're running this because it's running on Google Hangouts. We're streaming, and it's going to be on YouTube forever. So we're going to say this one more time. None of us up here are attorneys. Nothing we are currently saying can be held against us at UCF or elsewhere. You should check, and they do have attorneys. But today is a conversation about the legal issues of a startup.
To that point also, when you file, for instance, as an LLC in the state of Florida, typically anywhere, if you do like an LLC entity, you'll typically have to keep the actual business name with an LLC on it. So, for instance, if it was UCF, it would have to be UCF LLC when they're in the marketplace. So what we also are kind of hinting at here is that you do that business name search, you're not only looking for the LLC, but you're also looking for that specific name if you actually want to do it. So, for instance, if you want UCF alone, you're basically going to have to file a DBA or FNS. I don't know if you're going to go help that. But essentially, it's called doing business as name, and this allows you to use that name, UCF, without the LLC at the end of it in the marketplace. And then obviously, you want to make sure that both, in the case of Florida at least, they do actually have state trademarks. And then typically you also have a federal and national trademark as well. And obviously, if you're going to do trademark, typically people do end up doing the national trademark, which is a little bit more expensive. But I think
and it gives you more protection. If you just do it in Florida, I'm not saying it's the same, but it's just like registering your business name, essentially. So with what he was referring to, the DBA, it just means that every time you put your name in, you have to put LLC on the end of your name. So any business name, LLC. And to remove the LLC, you have to get a DBA or a fictitious name.
And you can have, let's make sure, doing business as, right? These, what do they cost? $5 or something in Washington. What do they cost here?
50.
Oh, 50 per DBA.
Yeah.
So I register my one company. Now let's say I have like 4 or 5 divisions under there, and I want to each have a different brand for them, right? I could be running into one registered company with 5 DBAs that are different, right? Okay.
And sometimes it is the case that when someone will start a company with a certain name, and they realize, maybe they end up shifting and they file as a general business in this case, and now they actually want to be a different name. And instead of having to put the whole company, the alternatives is to file two in the state.
We have 3 names. And we started off, we didn't use the whole lean startup method, and at the start at least. And we went about it foolishly and lost about $200-300 because we ended up with a different name, and we thought our first name was awesome. Then we told a couple other people, and they were like, "How do you spell that?" It was legalese, but it was like legalese, and just had to get rid of it. It was horrible. And then we moved on to another name, Legal Linked, with the dash in the middle. Our investors didn't like that, so we had to scratch that. And then we finally came to Legally Linked. So little story for experience. But to the next point, the URL is available. That's very important. Also, I would say. I think there's just a recent case with Dream Drivers. They changed their name and the Clink, and they thought they were able to get the Clink.com actual URL, another company, and they ended up missing it. It was supposed to expire, and then someone bought it right before they did, and they already registered their name as Clink, so they stuck with it. And I think they have their website is Clink something. But that's also important. Make sure you look up the URL if you're an online business. I mean, I would say for offline businesses, it's just as important, but especially if you're an online business.
And as online marketers would say, and you want to check all your social sites. If you're going to be huge on social, you need to have that brand across all platforms. So before you make a naming decision, you've got several places to look, right? All your social platforms, to see the URL, to see if it's available at the state level to register.
Okay, so next, you want to start in Florida. You want to decide where you want to start. You can start in Delaware if you'd like. You can start in any state, honestly. Delaware has better tax purposes. You can transfer your company without being taxed at all, no hassle. There's a lot of other benefits to it, but for sake being, I would stay in Florida just so there's no complications. I mean, you have to file multiple things in Florida and Delaware if you do decide to go out of state, but I'm just saying that you can file in another state in Delaware or in Florida. Okay, what type of business structure you want for? This is a big one. So, the two big ones is corporation and LLC. And the reason you want to go with the LLC or a corporation in most cases, it protects you. It basically is an artificial entity, meaning it's another person, it's separate from you. So once you create an LLC or a corporation, your personal assets, if you own a car or a house, if you were to get sued or something, then they cannot come after your personal assets if your business was to get sued. And that's the real big determining factor for a lot of people. It gives them protection. It gives them limited liability. So there's a corporation.
I mean, just keep in mind when you don't file anything and you start actually transacting products in Congress, essentially you're running a sole proprietorship. And because you have a sole proprietorship, you don't have these bills of protection that the LLC or corporation have. Basically, sitting at if something were to happen, some liability issue, then your assets are basically at risk. But also keep in mind too that it's not just black and white. Whatever you do form your company, just make sure, even if it's an LLC, that you're keeping everything separate. And from state to state, there's definitely going to be different variations. I know in Florida, two-member LLCs are most protected. One-member LLCs could be waived in terms of liability. So just keep that in mind.
And so when you have taxes, for tax purposes, when you file an LLC, you can file it as a sole proprietor, as a partnership, essentially. And I'll explain what that means right after this. You can file it as a corporation. You can get taxed as a corporation. So you can start an LLC and then determine afterwards how you want to be taxed. So usually with LLCs, people choose pass-through taxation. That means all the revenue that you collect throughout the business, you actually report on your personal income statement or your personal tax income report. And that's passive. And then you have if you file as LLC and you could determine to be taxed as a corporation, then you're actually being taxed twice. And it probably won't have to happen very soon, but essentially, if you do get to this point where you're shelling out dividends from corporations, so if you're paying stock investors back and you're giving them dividends, those dividends actually get taxed. Therefore, you're not paying them as much within the dividend. Therefore, you're not paying them back as much, if that makes sense. So, and then you also get taxed on your income. So that's kind of how that works. LLCs, corporations, sole proprietors, any other partnership. So you have 3 different types of partnerships. General partnership, which you don't have to file anything. You can just get together with one of your friends, write up a partnership agreement, and you're good to go. You know, you might want to file, register an EPA, register a name. That's usually the common scenario for general partnerships. And then you have limited partnerships. Limited partnerships where essentially you have one limited partner who invests into the company, and he has the actual limited liability. So he doesn't run the business or anything. He just invests in the company, and he's protected. Whatever happens to the company, if you guys get sued, he is not liable. But the other guy, the general partner in this limited partnership company, is actually responsible for running the business and also can be held responsible and liable for any debts or anyone that sues you. So that's kind of how a limited partnership works. And limited partnerships are usually done by one corporation coming in and being the limited partner, and then the other guy who started this company being the general partner. So then you have joint venture. Joint venture partnerships are just 2 companies coming together.
And I mean, there's going to be variations of these different entities from state to state as well. So also keep that in mind. So instead of Florida, there might be certain entities that you might not see mentioned in or in other states. So there are definitely variations of that.
Is there an S corp in Florida or only in other? Does it fall under the corporation? Sometimes we use an S corp or flow through, right?
Yeah, and one of the other things I think we're probably mentioning as well is if you're looking to seek for investment, it's a lot easier if you have an S corporation. I think it's the S or C. C corporation, because also related to the taxation and also related to the documents that you have to file. So just keep that in mind too. So there's definitely certain things you want to keep in mind when you're considering what entity you want to form.
Another good reason why we have the conversation early, right? But we're really trying to put the business model together. Until the business model is done, sometimes we don't know what are we going to need in the structure. Are there multiple partners? Are we getting capital from somewhere? Are we going out and raising $2 million, $1 million? Because depending on what the company becomes and what it has to do in terms of resources is going to inform the structure, right? That doesn't mean that if you started doing something you can't change.
Yeah, that's true. It makes you more, makes you more legit to investors too. Say we are an LLC or we are a corporation. Seems a lot better than I'm a sole proprietor. So it's not like that's a bad thing, but you just, they look at you, I would say. And the difference, back to the S corporation. So you have a C corporation and an S corporation. They're essentially filed the same. And the only difference is, once you file to start a corporation, like if you go through SunBiz, you can go online, fill out the information, and from there, you file it. They'll say, yay, you're a corporation. And then after that, you go to the IRS.gov and you file a S election form. And basically, that tells the IRS that you want your corporation to be taxed as an S corporation, or to be viewed as an S corporation. So the only difference really between S corps is the taxation. Then there's a couple rules regarding how many people you can have. You can only have 75 shareholders or 100 shareholders, and you can only have, I believe, let's see, there's not as many rules and regulations you have to follow throughout the year. Like with a corporation, you have to take a monthly, depending on the state, sometimes a weekly corporate minute book, meaning you have to meet every week and record what's going on in that meeting, have that in office. So that's kind of the difference between S Corp, C Corp.
I mean, we're just talking about the most common entity rules, and ones that exist in Florida. Yeah, I mean, LP, so prior,
Nonprofit. So if you want to do a nonprofit, it's usually, at least in Florida, you like you're filing a corporation. It's the same thing. Essentially, you file a corporation, but it's a nonprofit form. They ask the same exact questions. And then the only difference, and really the only reason you want to file a nonprofit is so after you can go to the IRS.gov and file a 501c3. There's different statuses, but you want to get a 501c3. It's best to get a 501c3, and it's the highest ranking, essentially, for nonprofits, because you get the best benefits and the best tax deductibles, essentially.
and just to recap to clarify, so, entities are filed at the state level, so it will be done on their state databases, in this case, it's subbiz.org, Divisions of Corporations.
And you guys also, you do.
Yeah, so
Yes, it's your
essentially, instead of going there if things were too complicated or something of that nature, we simplify it, and that's kind of where we come in. But also keep in mind that even if you don't go through us, there is going to be, this is what I didn't see here, essentially there is going to be filing fees associated with every type of filing you're doing, even at the state and federal level. So, for instance, when you're filing an LLC, it's still going to cost money. The government, state level, they require payment to actually process these documents and transact it. Unfortunately, sometimes if you don't file it the right way and they revoke that and it doesn't go through, essentially you'll have to pay it again. So there's no, okay, here's your money back type of situation. So just keep that in mind as well. And it's the same thing with trademarks too.
And we've got some new things happening in Florida. Well, about 13 states, right, the B Corp. And I think it's just effective this month, so it's all new. We're trying to get those lobbyists came out of Orlando that helped pass that in Tallahassee. And it's combining, right? It's a lot of nonprofits were running nonprofits and then had a for-profit. And a lot of foundations had situations like that. So now the B Corp is going to allow you to put them under one structure, and it's going to really do some amazing things in that it's one side of it's going to be entirely taxable, one side of it's going to be non-taxable, right? It'll have to be, and I don't know everything about it, but we're going to bring somebody in to talk about it because it's going to be radical for your generation. I absolutely believe it's going to become the structure. Do you know about it?
I had two questions that are related to low-profit LLCs. It was
Like a B Corp?
It was something I was researching, and it was saying like it was supposed to have some of the benefits of the tax deductions as nonprofits, but still some of the management
the
structure
LLP?
of.
Are you talking about a B Corp or a LLP or?
I think he's talking about an LLP, a low.
Yeah,
limited-
low-profit LLC.
Oh, low profit LLC.
Yeah, like I said, it was something I was researching. I was wondering for more input, and also for the B Corp, is the management of it still kind of like a board of directors type of thing, or is it?
This is fascinating. You know how we always tell everyone never tell people that you don't know? I don't know all the intricacies of how they're finding the rules for a nonprofit and a for-profit. Where are you guys in the learning curve of
Yeah,
this?
we're still, I mean, I've done a little research on it, board of directors though, and they have a lot of different rules. And it's very regulated because there could be a lot of potential people, embezzling and scamming money and getting money from this and saying it's from the nonprofit, et cetera, et cetera. So they're really trying to regulate it and make sure, people aren't scheming. Because,
I was just going to say, to answer your question, I tried to bring it up at the beginning that there's a lot of different variations from state to state, including Florida. The thing is that like corporate law and a lot of these other entities like LLCs, they typically tend to be the most common because they've been around the longest. So there's a lot of like well-standard, well-structured like law around it, common law especially. So there is an element of risk with filing as one of these, uncommon types of, entities. I mean, there's too many to name in terms of the different, acronyms. But essentially, there is going to be variations from state to state. And, if you really sit down with one of your either a business attorney, in a lot of cases, or typically CPAs will know a lot of this information because it really comes down to the taxation and structure of the company. They'll really run you through all the existing entities that you can actually file at the state level. You'll also see that in some cases as well.
And if you guys are interested in a social venture and the B Corp sounds interesting, stay tuned. We're going to bring the people in here, and we will be trying to bring some attorneys will be in that launch pad every 2 weeks during the fall. So you need to check real attorneys that you can just sit and talk to. They don't sell their services here. They come in just to support, just like these guys do.
Yeah.
So sometimes you'll get we'll bring an IP attorney in, to just talk about software code, should I copyright it, some really specific things. So you have that resource. You have Legal Link 24/7 on this campus. You should be looking at those services. But we will bring someone in to talk about the B Corp and who would it be right for, so you can learn more about it as a structure. Okay.
Isn't like the basic idea behind the B Corp that a regular corporation is accountable to its shareholders? It needs to, in its DNA, its job is to maximize profit at the expense of any social mission. Its job is to maximize profit. Now, a B Corp is not accountable to just maximizing profit. In its very DNA, it says, we're here to help the world. We have a mission. We need to make profit, but we also have a mission, and we're accountable to that mission. So
It's like entanglement, essentially.
yeah. So they're trying to come up with this accounting where they account by people. Are they making people's lives better? Are they making the planet better? And are they making profits? So they keep
That's why there's a lot of regulations going into it to follow that, to follow if they're doing it, the right way. If they're really making, doing this for good, it's hard to follow. But I think it'll be very interesting and definitely look forward to it. Okay, so let's see, any other entities structure-wise? Do you guys have any questions on entities you might want to form?
I heard that if you file your business federally, you don't have to file it in the state.
Federally?
Yeah.
But I don't know how to.
Was that maybe the trademark?
Yeah.
Maybe you're thinking about the trademark. Is a business always has to be
Registered in the state.
50 states,
Yes.
and where else? State and
State and county, if you want to, depending on your state and county for your licensing. But
Well, you also need those. You also need an FIN as well, and that's actually done at the federal level, which is basically your business identification number for the federal as a whole. But yeah, the actual business filing entities themselves will file at the state level, so you could be more qualified to move to those states.
yeah. But again, you don't need to if you don't actually have a physical storefront there, or some other guy selling them.
are you going to talk about trademark?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so then we have, so after you pick your structure, if everyone kind of has the understanding of structure, I know it's a lot of information, it's really hard to understand, it's like, but so once you pick your structure, like an LLC or a corporation, from there, like Edward was saying, you want to file your EIN or FEIN, your Employment Identification Number, with the IRS. It's basically the number the IRS assigns you or assigns your company, and that sticks with you for as long as the company's going. And you file taxes, and that's how they recognize it, essentially, is that number. And you have to have that number so you can open a bank account, a business checking account. So that's pretty crucial. And
And this is a great business. So let's say you're in ideation, if you're in the sequence before you set up your company. One of the things we would tell you is right away, at least have two bank, like set up either two checking, right? Somehow start separating all this money. If you are spending money, you want a clean path. So you might not be able to go in and set up a business checking, but you could set up a second checking of yours that only has, you could get another credit card, you know, with $250 limit that has, right? You have that card and it is we're only using it for our business stuff so that we can start to have that clean line so that when we come over here, we can, this tangle of our stuff and the business stuff for this year that we've been trying to figure it out is a little.
Yeah, I actually basically kind of commented on that earlier because the idea is that if something does happen on liability, you have an LLC or corporation, but you can't show that you've been acting separately as your business and as your personal, then that's where this should be breached in terms of this real protection. So that actually is one of the best practice standards, especially with a filed company. You definitely want to make sure you separate them.
that is the most important rule. Make sure your personal expenses are over here, your businesses are over here. Because if they start to mix together, lose all your protection, if you get sued, they can take your house, your car, your dog, whatever you paid on the away.
Now that doesn't mean that you can have a personal expense that the business pays, right? That happened over here, and we're expensing it to business, the business is paying me back. So eventually these become very separate things. This is way too far. We don't even want to talk about this because we don't have to worry about it during the first stages. But those of you that are running businesses, take a very hard look at the clear line of your finances and how things move over that line, what cards you're using to pay for what and all that. And Ron, raise your hand back. He'd be a great person to talk to if you feel like you need help on that.
And just to clarify, I don't think they can take your dog.
It depends on how valuable is it, because I'm sure they could take one of the Kardashians down.
And, I was just going to say, if you borrow it online,
In a
pay
purse.
per month.
If it fits in the Coach purse that was auctioned off, and Elvis's wife owns that, you can take it.
We're checking online, so they're more about filing for EIN.
Yeah.
Well, it's not at the federal level, so there's actually a lot of documentation around the site. You do it through the IRS. Right?
Yeah.
So,
IRS.gov.
you'll find that source.
And you can do it at
Legally
Legally Linked, that will show you where. Where do you do that on your, where would you find that?
We do talk about all this stuff on our site too. It's obviously free access.
You want to hit the,
You don't have
the big scale.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So,
our tech guys in the back.
federal tax ID.
Oh, right there.
Anyway, figure out there's a lot of information down there too. Why you need it, the advantages. It's a great website.
The website has definitely been using Lean Startup. This is the, what version? You must share these things, so people
I'll
think
say
we're
that-
all gonna do our first thing and it's
Yeah.
gonna work.
Well, I'll say that my background with some IT and HTML and CSS programming has come in handy unexpectedly, because I would say one of the most difficult aspects of any of these companies when it comes to the online aspect is really creating a really good, decent either IP on the site or an application. I'm sure party two can attest to that. It's a process, and it is very difficult sometimes to really get it right. We're still evolving the site, man. We do what's called A/B testing. So we're actually trying to figure out what converts the best.
This is our beat.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah, so we actually have this one up on the testing server. But we've done a lot of iterations of it. It'll definitely continue to evolve. There's a lot of new stuff coming out, new capabilities, so want to leverage that, HTML5 and other video stuff.
Yeah, and we're also putting in different new services, so you'll be able to sign and share documents or view over 1,000 different documents, contracts, like if you need an NDA or a
What's an NDA?
non-disclosure agreement. It helps keep your idea secret. If you go to Panera and you're talking to someone about this new idea you have, you don't really trust him because he's like a business major or something.
I thought we were talking about Panera Bread.
And
You definitely want an NDA if you take your idea to Panera Bread.
and so, but you don't trust this guy. You get him to sign an NDA, so that way, if he does steal your idea or whatever, you actually have a signed contract saying, hey, you can't disclose this for 2 years. But this is obviously still beta. Essentially what you'll be able to do is just go into our library and pick out search for different documents. And you put in, answer the questions.
We're really trying to simplify it. Yeah, a lot of these things are, and even NDAs are a little bit complicated sometimes.
And so you'll answer the questions, populate the document, and then from there you can either send it to one of your friends or whoever and have them sign it, or you can sign it, And there's a bunch of different documents. We can do this all online. So that's another thing we're working on. But yeah, so back to the checklist. Unless you guys have any questions about anything. Okay, so you get your EIN, right? So now you can your bank account. You're almost there. You're almost finally legit.
Well, you also want to make sure you check for any licenses and permits that you may need after you file your company. I would do it before, because there's a lot of liability. I know that, for instance, even Midnight Lunches, they had certain legislation, and it does vary from county to county, state to state, that you need to attain in certain industries. So just keep that in mind as well as operating.
So people that live in Orange County and run business out of their house, you're going to have to go to the tax collector's office downtown. You'll go in the building. You'll go to the second floor. It's 300 Roslyn, I believe, Avenue. And you'll go to the second floor. You'll take a right, and there'll be a desk right there. Talk to the ladies. You ask them. You tell them what type of business you're running. They're very helpful, extremely helpful. They'll tell you exactly which licenses you need. It's all online. Usually you'll have some type of, I think it's zoning or internet services license. It costs like $70, somewhere around that range. And you'll be good to go. And you always need to display that license in your office or your bedroom, whatever it is. That is required by law to display wherever you put your principal address at. So having a picture frame hanging on the wall, something like that. But yeah, and then after the license, you have your EIN, your business license, your business file, and one thing I did forget. So if you guys do decide to do it on your own, you're going to go through this LLC form or this corporation form on Sunbiz, and you'll get to a question, and it'll ask, who do you want to name your registered agent? Let's say registered agent. And it's required by law that you name a registered agent. And you can either buy a service, from us or someone else, where they'll basically be your registered agent. And a registered agent is a person who is there at the office that you list. So you'll list the name of the registered agent and the address. And this registered agent has to be at the address you listed from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, all year. That's, legal requirement. A lot of people do put that they are their own registered agents, and you can get away with that for, I think you can, I don't know, saying. You probably can get away with that for a pretty good bit of time. We don't 3 years. It's 3 years. Unless you become really big, or if you get sued right off the bat. Because that's what the registered agent is. He is the person that the legal and the tax documents are sent to. So that will be a part of the form that you will need to know about. And yeah. So, any more questions? Anything else?
And then just keep in mind, well, I was going to say too that when you file, like, for instance, an LLC in the state of Florida, if you don't have an operating agreement in place for your company, it defaults on Florida's operating agreement standards. So there's little things like that just to keep in mind. For instance, if you're trying to get multiple members, you'll end up putting that in with your LLC. I think it's great to put it in. It's declare it as a member something.
Yeah.
But essentially, the idea is that you want to have the operating agreement written up and in place, just so that you don't default to these standards and now you're not meeting certain requirements.
And so the operating agreement is the only contract that basically tells the lawyers or the government or the whoever who owns what. Because whenever you register your company on SunBiz, you don't put 50%. You used to. A year ago, you used to, but now you don't. So the only way anyone can tell is by your operating agreement. And it's nothing that you have to file with anyone. It's just required by law that you keep it at your principal address, at your principal place of business, in a cabinet, wherever, just somewhere within that address. And that way they can tell who owns what, who has more voting rights, what happens if Edward dies, like goes on to me, and stuff like that. But no, honestly, an operating agreement is one of the most important documents and shouldn't be taken lightly.
Yeah, we can jump into the trademark section real quick. So, you want to do it?
Okay, so you want to protect your idea, your intellectual property. You have, skip a lot of things. You have a trademark, a patent, or a copyright. And we do trademarks and copyrights, and we do patent searches. We used to do patents, but we don't sell them a lot. So with patents, it's basically used to protect, your original idea or device or your process or method. Trademark guards or protects a product name, a logo, slogan, and the copyright is for original works of either art or it can be coding, source code. You can copyright music notes. You can copyright, just a set of looper notes, a whole album, album title. Copyright your website. A lot of people do, just for the actual authorship, the wording throughout the website. So that way it's your wording. You own that. And does anyone have any questions about copyrights, trademarks, patents?
Copyright's different than a trademark, right?
And there's a lot of common law stuff America is really common law. There's a mix of civil law and common law. When it comes to business, you have, for instance, you have common law at the trademark level, but you still want to use certain symbols. Like, so for instance, if Brent went into town and party tutor, right, and no one else was using it, he was the first to use it. Under common law, as long as he puts like a certain symbol, which is the TM, like a trademark symbol, doesn't mean that it's actually like registered, that it is a registered trademark at the federal or state level, but he does have some form of protection for the person using that in commerce and using that symbol inside. So, there's definitely a mix, but the safeguard is always to register these things and to have them on file. Like we were talking about earlier, you can do it at the state level, which covers you from county to county and so on and so forth. And then you can also do it at the federal level. It's a lot more difficult to do it at the federal level because you actually have to go through every single state. And typically, you talk to an attorney and something like this, and they would actually go through all these different databases and search and make sure that there is no conflicting marks both on the DBA end and also other trademarks that are filed. And then after that, once you file that, it's also up to you to actually monitor the marketplace and make sure there is no companies coming out as well. We have attorney or some type of service that does that as well. But for the trademark filing, it's a lot cheaper at the state level, much more affordable. And I would recommend look into it. Every case is different, but at the federal level is really, if you're going to do trademark, really trying to secure the IP around the name. And typically, a lot, especially even like a company like us, all the IP really comes down to the brand. And if you can say that you own this trademark, really building into that brand equity, you can actually sell that later on. It's a lot more valuable that way. But yeah, I think on the federal level, it's around what, 345, 350, somewhere in that range.
325, we're filing fee.
That's filing it right, filing within certain classes that you're going to be operating in. And if you're operating in multiple classes, like certain business, and certain
Class meaning like you sell T-shirts, that's one class. You sell seafood, that's another class. So if you register in both of those classes, that's double the filing fee. So,
so also keep that in mind as well. So and that's, Pam was talking about this earlier, that's why when early on, just figure out what is your company, where is the actual value being generated, what you're going to actually be doing, because it will save you a lot of time and money later on. If you file your own class or something of this nature, realize, well, this is actually not what the market is, so this is, I guess the need doesn't really exist here. So just keep that in mind as well. So that, and the trademark is done, what's there's a site for all that. You can actually search.
USPTO.
Yep. So
.gov,
you can actually readily do all that.
because there's all kind of scammers at .org and
Yeah, always
the
check that out.
.gov, and it has, you can do some searches there, like,
Yeah.
also.
you search for your trademark. It looks a little complicated, but just read it. You'll be fine.
And once again, just real quick, so if let's say you go through the database and you search at the federal level and don't find any conflicting marks, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist, because the fact that you can actually register marks at the state level, some states do, Florida does it, means that you also have to search those as well, or this might not go through the federal level. So it's a little bit more complicated and a little bit more expensive.
The other thing,
Just talk about conflicting marks.
marks, I'll think of it then, keep going.
Yeah, when most websites have like your copyright at the bottom, like 2014 copyright, does that just mean that like people can't copy how their website looks? Like, what are they protecting? What's protected on like a copyrighted website? And then there's nothing that really needs to be filed for that. You can just throw that on there. Or
Copyrights are $25, $35 a piece, you can't copyright.
I mean, theoretically, obviously, let's go back to common law. Anything you put down in some type of legible manner is copyrighted, right? But when you go through a standard procedure, a formal process that the government lets you do, you have a lot more protection and say, okay, this is what happened, and basically, if anything were to happen, you can basically shut your case down.
Yeah, you get more leverage. It's like,
Exactly.
I filed this, I'm protected. But what you're saying is that, yes, you can copyright the design of it, or you can copyright all the wording. Usually companies do both, because they're two different filings. So you copyright all the wording on your site. So it's like your unique wording, your unique language, whatever. And then you can copyright the design.
And you have to be careful with this on trademarks. Some of us have made mistakes when we got a design trademark. We got the design trademark and thought we were getting the words trademark. So there's just a lot of
Standard
nuances.
character mark is the most powerful mark that you can get if you register a trademark, which would just be, characters in all caps, just the name. And once again,
That's what you want to start out with.
But yeah, if you're going to do it, if you're going to spend that money, that's your most powerful trademark that you can file. And then, let's just have there's also design marks you file. Some people will actually accidentally, I would say more so, file it together, where they have a design mark with the actual standard character mark inside of it. It actually weakens both. So if you were to file a design mark separately, with just the symbol or design that you're trying to get, trademark, then it would be more powerful than filing both together. As opposed to, and the same thing with the standard character mark.
Yeah, so you file your trademark, you file your logo, and you file your business name. 2 different trademark applications. Some people try to put them together, and it weakens it because it's really just filing the design of those letters. But
What are some of the biggest mistakes that young starters make, in startup, little mistakes? Maybe things that we
I would
pay
say-
attention to.
I'll jump in at the beginning. Definitely what we mentioned earlier, not separating the expenses, both the expenses and the finances from the company and the person. Because a lot of people will do the LLC and they think they're good to go, and they start being a little bit careless. But at the end of the day, once again, it's not going to hold up if in terms of if you're mixing and matching your personal life with your business. So just keep that in mind. I think keeping it separate and also filing it the right way and having an operating agreement, I would say would definitely be it. So,
And a lot of people don't, when they, 2 things. Either they file too soon and they don't really need to, they don't need it yet. That's a big mistake we see a lot. Or they're actually, when they file, they'll make some minute, something that's wrong, whether it be not putting the LLC on the end, or having their address in the wrong spot, or just something really small. And the Secretary of State, the people who accept applications, will let it go through. But that comes back, and if anything ever happens, they have that saying, okay, you filed this wrong, therefore your name really isn't your name. That's not your business name. We can take that. Stuff like that.
I would definitely say just, before you make any decision on filing it and things of that nature, just always do your due diligence, whether it be consulting with an attorney, or
Going
talking
to
to your network,
legally,
or
doing your own due
checking
diligence.
this out and reading things up, because there's always little things that you might not be aware of. And it's better to second guess yourself early on than have to worry about the liability later. Later you can't do anything about it. And there's even little things like, selling, we had an investment in an LLC. It's a lot different to have an investment in an LLC than to have it with the C Corp. And there's certain procedures you have to go through. A lot of people will take, for instance, investments from family members, and they'll give them equity in return for that, and nothing gets filed anywhere. And the SEC, you're basically selling securities, and it's illegal not to file those securities, if you're selling them. So there's a lot of little things you just want to be aware of early on that might, and what we're really talking about is if you do have a successful venture, these are things that are going to come up.
Really hurt you.
Yeah, so it's not every venture is going to be successful. So a lot of times you won't catch these things and the business will shut down and nothing happened, and you're like, okay, well, I must have done it right last time, but don't be careless. I would just say that.
Copyrights.
Awesome. So you guys, give, right? They shared a lot of stuff today, right? And you've got people on campus that are working hard to create a network of attorneys and resources to help student starters. So definitely check out Legally Linked. Definitely Legally Linked. Yeah, I'm still on the iteration of the name, right?
That's when you really helped us out when we were Legally Linked. So
Yeah, I worked a lot at Legally Linked. So the other thing is keep watching the newsletter. We have one more Wednesday, and then we'll be off for a couple weeks. No Wednesdays for a couple weeks, and then school starts on the 18th, and we start going every day in noon here again. So we're going to run stuff and get ready for that. Next week's Friends Up, we're excited to have him share stories with you guys. And then what can we do for you? Around here, it's give, 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 ask, right? So they came in, they gave to the community, right? You received, right? What can we do for you?
One more thing for that.
Okay.
If you guys have any legal questions, like attorney-wise, about business formation, anything like that, just send them our way, and we'll talk to our lawyers, just because we do have lawyers on the board, and they are in Florida. So we can always pass that on to them, and, contract-wise, they're obligated to at least give us 10 hours, and we're not getting all those 10 hours, so we need some more things for them to do. So if you guys have any questions or anything, email me, I'll put something up.
I would say, honestly, someone hinted at earlier, I think feedback on the website would be nice. We definitely get a lot of iterations, and we continue to do so. So if you guys have some time, I'll definitely leave my card here today. But like Terry said, if you have questions or anything like that, obviously we'll help you out. We're on campus, so.
Let's put your contact information on the board and how we hit you up on social. And maybe you guys can share about what you learned on social today and tag their website, right? That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, we're pretty active on social media, so, everything is out there. But yeah, just give us feedback on the website. I'd say that's the main thing right now, so.
All right, what now?
All right, so we have a tradition after every single time we have a speaker, we clap for them, which we just did, and then we all stand up, head to the front, I play some hipster music, and we take an Instagram photo. So, if you can help me out, please stand up to the front, and I will play some, I hope it's hipster, if it's not, don't judge me. But I will play some music, we'll dance, and it'll be good. Right? Yeah. So, I will play some music.
Yeah.